Hello learners, welcome back to the course on learning and development in organization. We move to the last session of 7th module. We'll be looking into group development. So if you have seen, we started with psychological contracts, understanding psychological contract. We tried to link it with learning and development. Then we looked into individual predispositions. Today, we'll look into the group dispositions. What is group? How group is formed? What are the different theoretical frameworks associated with that? And essentially, how learning and development will prosper in a group. I'm Dr. Cyril Issac. I'm an assistant professor at the School of Business, Indian Institute of Technology, Guwahati. When you look into managing the group development or understanding group development, we'll go through the theme that talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence win championships. So this, I assume, underscores the relevance of group, team. So we'll understand why or what is the significance of group and how the group development actually occurs now. Group development refers to the process through which a collection of individuals transform into cohesive, functional team capable of working together effectively. Now, when you look into the previous sessions, if you have gone through that, you will understand that it takes all types of people to make the world. Individuals were getting the predominance. Individuals were significant, but now it is all about group development. It encompasses the evolution of relationships, establishment of norms that actually guide the group, clarification of the roles that you are in, whatever is the job role, whatever is the task, whatever duty, responsibilities that you have to do, and development of effective work processes that enable the collective achievement. So at the epitome, at the pinnacle, what you have is organizational objective. At the top of your mind, you are only looking into that because you are a loyal member of a group or the functional group that you are associated within the organization. When we look into group development, there are certain characteristics. We'll look into that in greater detail. When you look into group development characteristics specifically, we see that group should be, and I repeat, it should be always having a progressive nature. When you look into group development, typically it follows a general trajectory from formation to maturity, so the path is rarely perfectly linear. So teams may revisit earlier development stages when facing significant challenges or changes. Identifiable stages, you look into different models, you see that these models conceptualize them differently. Most group development frameworks identify distinct stages characterized by specific concerns, specific behaviors and challenges. There could be some initial stage which focuses on orientation, on safety and belonging. There will be a middle stage which involves conflict, negotiation and establishment of norms, and then there will be the third stage, which is the later stage, which would emphasize productivity, interdependence and refinement. Then we look into the dual focus. Dual focus, throughout the development, groups must address basically two parallel dimensions. One is always the task dimension and another is the relational dimension. Task dimension is how the work gets done. The procedures, the roles, the decisions that happen with respect to the task. When you look into the relational dimension, how the members interact, the communication, the trust, the conflict, all these are aspects of dual focus. Then we have normative processes. As groups develop, they establish both explicit and implicit norms that govern behavior. So we have communication patterns, who speaks when, how disagreements are handled. We have decision making approaches, maybe it is consensus or majority vote or leader decision, or it is performance expectations, quality standards, timeliness and accountability. Then you have leadership evolution. The type of leadership needed shifts as groups develop. So there could be early stages that require more directive leadership. There are middle stages that benefit from facilitative leadership, and then there are mature stages that thrive with delegative leadership. And finally, you have the boundary management. Throughout development, groups establish and maintain boundaries. There could be, the external boundaries, which are the relationship with other teams and stakeholders, and there could be also internal boundaries, which are, let's say, subgroups, role differentiation, etc. Now let's look into the importance of groups in organizations. You look into the importance of groups in organizations, I'll definitely start with enhanced problem solving and decision making ability. When you talk about group, you see that groups bring diverse perspectives and complementary expertise to complex problems, potentially leading to more creative solutions through cognitive diversity. Please recollect the discussions we had with respect to diversity. I've also had a very detailed discussion in the labor and welfare course that is floated along with this in the NPTEL platform. When you are looking into more creative solutions, we have to also understand that more thorough analysis of alternatives is also required. Greater commitment to implementing decisions is required. Reduced risk of cognitive biases that affect individual decision making is also there. Then we look into the increased productivity and performance. Well-developed teams can achieve outcomes that exceed what individuals could accomplish separately. So complementary skills enable specialized contribution. Parallel processing of complex tasks are there. Mutual accountability drives consistent performance. Healthy competition can raise standards. We also see knowledge sharing and organizational learning also underscoring the importance of groups in organization. Groups serve as vehicles for knowledge exchange and development. So let's say tacit knowledge becomes explicit through the interaction. Mentoring and informal learning can occur naturally. Best practices, spread more easily across organizational boundaries. There could be institutional memory that persists beyond individual turnover. Then there is a possibility of employee engagement and also satisfaction. Effective groups, if you ask me, I'll say satisfy fundamental human needs, belonging and social connection, recognition and appreciation from the peers, shared purpose and meaning, support during challenges. All these are typical factors that lead to satisfaction. Then we have organizational flexibility and resilience. Groups enable organizations to respond to change more effectively. So distributed leadership increases the adaptability. Redundant capabilities provide backup for critical functions. You have collective problem solving that generates multiple approaches to challenges. Social support that helps members cope with stress and uncertainty. We also do have typical implementation of complex initiatives. Many organizational priorities, they require coordinated effort across multiple domains. Cross-functional teams integrate specialized expertise. Project teams maintain focus on specific initiatives. Communities of practice advance professional standards. Task forces address emerging challenges. These are also significant. And also what is important is leadership development. You talk about groups, they provide natural context for developing future leaders. You have practice in influencing without formal authority. You have experience with facilitation and conflict resolution. You look into opportunities to coordinate complex efforts. You look into feedback on interpersonal effectiveness. Finally, we move to a model which deliberates on the stages of group development, and that is the most famous Tuckman's 5-stage group development model. It starts with forming. Some of you might already know, so I'll go through that quickly, but I'll give you a deeper understanding here. The initial stage occurs when team members first come together. So during forming, what happens is that people are typically polite and reserved as they begin to establish relationships. Members focus on understanding the group's purpose, determining the roles, setting preliminary boundaries. So there's often high dependence on the leader for guidance and direction. So team members are gathering information and impressions about each other and the task at hand, while avoiding controversy or conflict. Productivity is generally low as people are still orienting themselves. Then you have storming. So as name suggests, this stage involves conflict, it involves disagreement. Team members begin to express their individual perspectives more openly, which can lead to competing ideas about how to proceed. Power struggles may emerge. Subgroups might form based on common viewpoints. Members test established boundaries and may challenge the leadership. This stage can be uncomfortable, but it is essential for genuine team development. It's when authentic concerns and differing opinions come to the surface. So this is vital. Teams that avoid storming often struggle with suppressed disagreements that resurface later. Then you have norming. During norming, the group begins to resolve the differences, appreciate colleagues' strengths, and build mutual respect. Members develop a stronger commitment to team goals and establish shared working methods and communication patterns. Agreement forms around roles, responsibilities, and processes. So the team creates unwritten rules or norms that guide behavior. Leadership becomes more shared, and members take greater responsibility for decisions. Trust develops, allowing for more open exchange of feedback and ideas. Then you have performing. At this stage, the team operates at high efficiency. Members work collaboratively with minimal supervisions, adapting roles fluidly to meet the changing needs. So the team here focuses on achieving goals rather than relationship issues, so which are now largely resolved altogether because of the previous stages. So decision making becomes more autonomous, with the leader typically serving as a resource rather than a director. So not all teams reach this stage. It requires having successfully worked through the entire process of the previous stages, right from forming, storming, norming, etc. High-performing teams demonstrate strong interdependence. They demonstrate great motivation and, even if you ask me, the ability to prevent or quickly resolve conflicts. Coming to adjourning. Tuckman added this 5th stage in collaboration with Mary and Jensen in 1977, recognizing that many teams eventually disband. During adjourning, the team completes its work and prepares to dissolve. So members may experience a sense of loss alongside accomplishment. So this stage involves recognition of contributions, celebration of achievements, and managing the emotional components of separation. For ongoing teams, this might represent the end of a specific project or transition to a new phase, requiring partial readjustment through the stages again. So why this model matters, if you ask me? Tuckman's model helps leaders and team members understand that group development follows a natural progression. Each stage serves an important purpose in building an effective team, effective group. By recognizing which stage a team is in, leaders can adapt their approach accordingly. So many a time, leaders fail also in doing this, providing more discretion during forming, facilitating constructive conflict resolution during storming, solidifying processes during norming, or empowering the team during performing is actually the way to go about. So the model also normalizes the challenges teams face, helping members understand that difficulties are part of a natural development process rather than signs of failure. Now let's look into the practical leadership strategies that are there at each stage. We'll start with the forming stage. Some of the key leadership tasks include providing clear structure and direction, facilitating introductions and relationships building. We also have issues to clarify purpose, goals and initial expectations. We need to create psychological safety for questions and concerns. So what we see as managerial interventions, effective managerial interventions here would be that there should be structured team building activities. There should be clear documentation of initial plans and processes. There should be individual meetings with team members. There should be regular check-ins to address the uncertainties. You look into the storming, you see that the key leadership tasks include normalizing conflict as necessary for development, help team members express differences constructively. You have to model effective conflict resolution in this particular stage and maintain focus on shared goals despite all the existing disagreements. So what could be some of the effective managerial interventions? If you ask me, I will say that establish ground rules for productive disagreement. Disagreeing to agree later and agreeing to disagree later is also vital. Use facilitation techniques to ensure all voices are typically heard. You cannot actually create problems by just not hearing people. You cannot make them silent, and possibly this may resurface at a later stage. Address interpersonal conflicts promptly and directly. Provide conflict resolution training if needed. You look into the next stage, the norming stage leadership. You see that the key leadership tasks include facilitate explicit discussions about the working norms that exist. Reinforce positive collaborative behaviors. Begin shifting from a directive to a coaching leadership style. Balance the task focus with continued relationship building. So what are the effective possible interventions? Document all the agreed upon processes and expectations. Implement the regular process check-ins that you can do with respect to any organization. Whatever are the processes that are happening, do a regular check-in. Celebrate early wins and progress. Encourage peer feedback and mutual accountability. So when you look into performing stage leadership, on the other hand, you'll see that the leadership tasks include delegating greater authority to the team. You focus on removing the obstacles to performance. You provide strategic guidance rather than micromanagement, and challenge team to continue growing and innovating. So if I want to look into effective intervention processes with respect to performing, create opportunities for advanced skill development, encourage the team experimentation, and also go for calculated risk taking. So connect teamwork to broader organizational objectives and implement systems for capturing learning and best practices. And finally, we move to the leadership at adjourning stage. We see that this stage demands certain different sets of leadership tasks, like facilitating proper closure and transition. Recognize the contributions and celebrate achievements. Capture and transfer knowledge and support emotional aspects of team dissolution. What could be the effective intervention? Formal recognition events or rituals should be conducted. Documentation of lessons learned should be the primary concern of every single employee. Clear communication about next steps or the future opportunity should be given, and also individual transition conversations should happen without any inhibition. What are the common challenges and solutions? I will definitely list down regression to earlier stage as one of the primary causes. When you look into this concern, what could be the causes? You have major changes in team composition, we want to regress to the earlier stage. We have new projects or direction shifts, we want to regress to our earlier stage. We have external pressure or crisis, we want to regress to earlier stage. When you are looking into the solutions for this, please try to acknowledge that the regression is a normal thing. Briefly revisit the earlier stage work, there is no harm in that, but you are essentially in an advanced stage or in a progressive stage, so don't go back and stay there. Come back immediately. Leverage established relationships to move forward in a faster mode. And finally, adapt leadership approach to current developmental needs of the organization. When you are stuck at the specific stages, that could also be a common challenge. Let's look into the stagnation that can essentially come in the forming stage. Increase clarity about expectations and process. That could be one way to go about it. Create low risk opportunities for authentic interaction, or gradually reduce the dependence on the leader. What causes prolonged storming is that we are unable to address underlying conflicts directly. We have to revisit and clarify the shared purpose and goals typically. Consider the team composition changes if it is required, if it is only required, and provide structured conflict resolution process altogether. When you look into norming without progress to performing, we also see that we are stuck up at this particular stage. Introduce appropriate challenges to test team capabilities. So it should not go out of hand or out of proportion so that the team is not able to control it. Provide feedback on team processes and outcomes. Gradual increase in team autonomy. That also should be the way to go about it. You look into the special circumstances. As a common challenge, you see that there are some cases pertaining to virtual and hybrid teams specifically. So you need more explicit communication norms there. You require intentional relationship building there. You need benefit from regular synchronous interactions, and you need clear documentation of decisions and processes. So when you look into these singular aspects, you will see that cross-cultural teams also would have a different level of factors. It may experience extended forming and storming. It requires explicit discussion of cultural differences. It may benefit from establishing shared vocabulary. You are looking into cross-cultural. Sometimes you are not talking the same language, might have a problem, might be an actual, regressive factor. So all these aspects, including need awareness of different conflict and communication style, also caters to cross-cultural teams. And finally, the last aspect today, what we look into is matrix teams. In terms of the common challenges, we also look into this from the point of view of matrix teams. They face competing priorities and allegiances. So they need clear decision rights, escalation paths typically. Benefit from regular stakeholder alignment is required, and ultimately they require explicit role clarity. So when you are talking about specifically psychological contract per se and the effect of that towards learning and development, in the previous session, if we were more focused on individual, in this particular session we have extensively discussed on group. We have tried to understand what group is. We have tried to understand what are the different stages of group formation. We have looked into some of the famous existing theories for that. We have also taken help from different models associated with that. So all these aspects critically give way to one single factor, that as individuals are important, groups are also important. Groups are also relevant. So when you talk about the group-based decision making, group-based processes, group-based functions, cross-functional activities, we need one aspect, that is every single member within the team should be empowered. That will form an empowered group. Thank you for listening to me patiently. We'll see you with more details of learning and development in the next module. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.